So when does artificial sweetener intake become excessive? This is a tricky question, and obviously I can't give you a definitive answer because it really depends on the individual. It also depends on which artificial sweeteners we're talking about. Something like a sugar alcohol like erythritol can actually cause some stomach upset. And this is simply because erythritol kind of acts like fiber. It passes through your digestive system and actually can't be absorbed. And this simply just causes water to be pulled into your intestines in order for the erythritol to be excreted, which could cause slight dehydration and some bloating and stomach upset. And it might surprise you to find out that if you ingest too much fiber, the same thing could happen. It's a bit of a tangent, but if you ingest too much fiber and not enough water, then this fiber can actually get stuck inside of your intestinal tract. And this is why just throwing down a bunch of fiber supplements isn't always the best idea. But back to the topic of artificial sweeteners, I can't really tell you what an excessive artificial sweetener intake would be. One reason is that I don't think someone could possibly have an excessive intake of artificial sweeteners simply due to how sweet they are. Artificial sweeteners are approximately 200 times sweeter than sugar, and the amount of artificial sweetener that you would actually use to flavor your coffee probably wouldn't even be measurable. So when you're taking a packet of Equal, there's a very, very tiny amount of artificial sweeteners in it. And in order to bulk it up, they actually add things like maltodextrin and dextrose. And these are just carbohydrates, meaning that technically when you're ingesting any sort of powdered artificial sweetener, you're also going to have a few calories in that. One thing that could occur is something called reactive hypoglycemia. And this is when you get a rise in blood glucose, then a subsequent rise in insulin. And the insulin is used to actually get the glucose inside of your cells. And most of the time, this insulin just returns your blood glucose to stable levels. But for some people, their pancreas actually produces a little bit too much insulin in response to any sort of carbohydrate ingestion. And as a result, their blood glucose will actually get low, and this causes feelings of fatigue and kind of irritability. But for most people, this isn't really a problem. But once again, this isn't actually a result of the artificial sweetener itself, it's the result of the bulking agent that contains a small amount of carbohydrates. In terms of the detrimental effects of artificial sweeteners, there really isn't any conclusive evidence on humans. First of all, I want to caveat all of this by saying, if you don't like artificial sweeteners and you don't currently use artificial sweeteners, I'm not telling you to start using them. However, if you're choosing between artificial sweeteners or normal sugary beverages, and consuming these sugary beverages puts you in a caloric surplus and causes you to gain weight, and consuming the artificial sweeteners puts you in a caloric deficit and allows you to lose weight, I recommend you choose the artificially sweetened beverage. Interestingly, they've actually run studies where one group was given just water and the other group was actually given an artificially sweetened beverage. What's astonishing is the group that received the artificially sweetened beverage unconsciously ate less throughout the day, and at the end of the study lost over 2 times as much weight as just the water group. There is no magical fat-burning effect of artificial sweeteners, but sometimes it can help people curb that sweet tooth, and throughout the rest of the day they simply eat less food. And if this results in a healthy degree of weight loss and allows you to improve your metabolic health, then artificial sweeteners are going to be a net benefit. Excessive artificial sweetener intake would typically be a result of actually some of these bulking agents that are inside the artificial sweeteners. And you would know if your intake is becoming excessive simply if you get digestive symptoms after having a food or a beverage with artificial sweeteners. However, all these extreme claims about the effects of artificial sweeteners really haven't been shown in the human randomized control trials. Additionally, most of the claims against artificial sweeteners come from studies that aren't done in humans. Instead, they're done either by dumping artificial sweeteners on cells in a petri dish or using animal models. And in these studies, the amount of artificial sweeteners given to the animal or put in a petri dish are hundreds, if not thousands of times greater than what you would get by simply drinking an artificially sweetened soda. And luckily, since artificial sweeteners typically aren't absorbed, they don't accumulate inside the body. So this would mean that you would have to have 600 times the amount that you could possibly get from a diet soda every single day. And you would have to repeat this over multiple days, weeks, or even months to see any of the noticeable effects. So when would an artificial sweetener become excessive? I think it becomes excessive when it causes you to overconsume on something. For example, if you use artificial sweeteners in your water, and at the end of the day you're drinking 3 gallons of water because you like the taste, this excessive amount of water could actually become detrimental. And I recently did a few videos on this, so I would love for you to go check those out, but it's simply because it will throw off your ability to retain water. And it just causes a lot of different alterations in your fluid balance that aren't really that normal. So excessive artificial sweeteners would be when these artificial sweeteners facilitate you to drink excessive amounts of liquid. Or if you put artificial sweeteners on your food and at the end of the day you end up over-consuming food. For example, sometimes companies will actually use artificial sweeteners to flavor products that already have sugar in it. And this is simply because, once again, artificial sweeteners are extremely, extremely sweet. So they don't need much to get this extremely sweet flavor. So it's kind of just a cost-effective way to get the taste they're looking for. However, combining artificial sweeteners with carbohydrates could have some odd effects on your physiology. There's a potential for it to cause what's referred to as reactive hypoglycemia. And this is only in certain people. This isn't all the time. We can't make blanket statements about everybody. And this is when you overproduce a hormone called insulin. And insulin allows glucose to get inside of the cells out of the bloodstream. And it's used for when you have a blood glucose increase to normalize your blood glucose once again. But some people's pancreas actually overproduce insulin. And as a result, their blood glucose levels actually fall below normal. And this could cause you to feel hungrier, feel tired, and feel a little bit irritable. However, this typically isn't special to artificial sweeteners. And in people that this occurs in, this would also happen to just a normal carbohydrate drink or food. Therefore, you would likely know if you're an individual that experiences this. The last thing that I'll mention about artificial sweeteners is the fact that they change your gut bacteria. Yes, studies show that when you ingest artificial sweeteners, if you've never had them before, there's an alteration in your gut bacteria. But this change really doesn't mean anything, because everything changes your gut bacteria. If you have a food that you've never had before, that will change your gut bacteria. Interestingly, exercise can change your gut bacteria. Things in the air in your environment can also change your gut bacteria. So this change in gut bacteria isn't special to artificial sweeteners. The important thing when we see a change in gut bacteria is what bacteria are changed. And what I think is pretty interesting is that the change from ingesting artificial sweeteners is either neutral or possibly beneficial. So in our intestines, some bacteria are thought to be good bacteria and others are thought to be bad bacteria. And the change in bacteria in response to artificial sweeteners appears to be in favor of some actually beneficial bacteria. This doesn't mean that artificial sweeteners are going to be beneficial for your gut health. All it really means is that we can't just make the claim that they change gut bacteria and think that this means that they're having detrimental effects to your health. As to now, I haven't really seen anything convincing that artificial sweeteners are going to be detrimental to your health. And for most people, they actually allow them to lose weight in a sustainable manner. With that being said, a lot of the things that come along with artificial sweeteners could have some odd side effects. Again, if you maintain health without artificial sweeteners, then adding them in would not give you a benefit. But if you use artificial sweeteners to maintain a healthier body composition, then I really don't think you have to be worried about it. This doesn't mean go around purposely adding artificial sweeteners to everything. And trying to reduce your artificial sweeteners isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I personally don't use artificial sweeteners, so it's not like I'm trying to justify something that I do. But simply switching out sugary beverages with an artificially sweetened drink is something that I've used to help a few people actually start their weight loss journey. And it's something that helps some people maintain this weight loss. With that being said, I've been talking for a while and probably gave you a little bit more than you wanted. But I would love to hear your feedback in the comments and any sort of comments or concerns you may have. And if there's new research that you think would actually change my mind, I would love to read it, and I'm always open to changing my mind on the topic. I think a lot more research is going to come out on the impacts of artificial sweeteners in the future. And I am extremely excited to see what comes out. And I hope I have the pleasure of speaking to you next video.